clock has struck 3 a.m. The witching hour has begun. Are you ready to be initiated into the Black Magic Coven? Join your sisters, Liz,
Kaylee,
Marissa,
and Andrea,
as we meet to discuss the macabre, creepy, and sinister. We call upon the Four Corners to join the internet's blood cults. And today we are joined by Paige from Cult Podcast. Hello, Paige. Welcome to the Coven.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So, Paige, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do other than Cult Podcast? We know Cult Podcast. We love it.
It's about cults, unless the name was confusing for some of you. I am a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles, and I have that podcast, and then a horror movie podcast and a romance movie podcast. So it's a lot of movies and talking into microphones these days because we still can't fully go outside.
Right.
Yes. Well,
a
awesome.
romance movie. I love that.
Yeah, because I don't really like them, but my two male co-hosts do. And so it's kind of an interesting dynamic of them being like, this is cute. And I'm like, this is stalking. She should run.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Well, like I said, thanks so much. We're excited to have a cult expert on our panel today. Our panel, we're going to call this a panel. No, in our coven, joining us. And obviously, like I said, we're talking about blood cults, or specifically, we're talking about blood over intent, which is this blood cult that is on YouTube. So we're living in the new age. We're living in the internet world where we have YouTube cults now.
There are plenty. There's a lot of YouTube cults.
Yeah.
There's also TikTok cults as well, so even more so.
You don't even have to leave your house.
Yeah. We covered a TikTok cult a couple months back, and there's also like 2 or 3 others that people keep pestering us about. But yeah, that's the new thing, is remote cult membership.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy way to get people to donate money on the internet.
Yep.
I mean, especially if you can do like a cult where you have to pay in for it.
Yep.
Right.
So,
I mean,
great.
But don't these people want to be like anonymous to an extent? I don't know. It just seems like very forward. Like, if I were in a cult, like, I'd want to be an underground one. You know what I mean? Like,
you mean where no one knew you were in it?
Right.
Well, yeah, but now it's all about the views, and like you got to get that hashtag out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hashtag cult life.
I mean, the thing we've noticed, especially with the more, TikTok, YouTube cults, is that they don't shy away from being called a cult, or they kind of embrace it as almost like street cred in a way.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Cults are not supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah.
No. Occasionally we get to one on the show where you're like, this is harmless. Like, these are just people having fun in a park. But like most of the time, it's really bad. So
These are people having fun in a park.
Like, what was that cult on Parks and Rec? What are they called?
Oh, where they always get the date. I don't remember what they're called, but they always get the date wrong. She's like, the park's booked that day.
And then he's like, we can move it to next Saturday.
Oh, I got it wrong. It's actually the next day.
Oh, man, there's so many like that.
What would you say differentiates a cult over a club?
I would say there's a few different things. We have usually a set of kind of parameters that we look at on our show, which are things like you've got a leader who has different beliefs than the followers. You've got beliefs outside the norm. You've got people having to make either like a monetary or physical sacrifice to be in it. You've got like active recruiting and then disconnection from outside relationships. So
Gotcha.
you could, let's say, like, for example, I was in a sorority in college, but I could have left at any time. I wasn't prevented from seeing my friends and family. It was completely voluntary. No one was keeping me there. Like, you could definitely argue elements that are a little iffy, but for the most part, I was safe. I wasn't being exploited, and I could leave.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's usually what we look at.
So, how many of you have heard of blood over intent before we brought it up as a topic?
So I had heard about it, but I was under the impression that it was like a super new thing, which it is still relatively new. But I didn't realize, I think I found videos going back to like 2017, I think was like the oldest I could find.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's just had a resurgence of uploads to YouTube, and that's what I had seen a couple YouTubers that I follow talking about it, and it definitely got my interest.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, to be honest. I just like searched blood cults and was like, this is going back. So there's so many layers to this. And then I finally found an article about specifically blood over intent and started reading about it then.
Yeah, same. I'm more familiar with cults from like the 70s and 80s than I am anything online, or anything that's kind of been going on in recent years. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more as opposed to what I, kind of looked into myself. But I just never really focused attention on what's been, going on currently, more like retrospective, I guess.
I think I first heard about this when you messaged me about it, and then dug into it a little bit, because when you first said, oh, it's going to be blood cults, my first thought was like, oh, I have to talk about Narco-Satanicos again. But no, this is completely different. I'm really kind of fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by the fact that everyone, like in all the articles, is like, it's a satanic cult. And I feel like it's only satanic because that one guy is like, I'm Satan, what's up? But like, aside from that, it's not really satanic as much as it's just ritual magic. And it's almost theosophy based, which we cover a ton of on Cult Podcast. And it's old as, it's 100 years old, essentially. So, like, it's really fascinating to hear people be like, it's this new thing. And I'm like, rubbing blood on an intention? No, that's, like, as old as the earth. Like, what are you talking about? But I think it's really interesting that they're kind of playing it out as this new, almost kind of sinister thing, when I'm like, talk to anybody who practices ritual magic, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, declaring an intention and then making some sort of sacrifice of some sort of bodily fluid, that's like 101. Like that's just normal ritual magic. So I'm kind of fascinated to hear about how this is kind of proliferated with that at its center.
Well, and I wonder if part of that is because I believe Anton LaVey practiced blood magic.
He actually did not. That's what's so fascinating.
I was wrong. See, I was thinking maybe that's where they were getting like the Satanist vibes.
Nope. Yeah.
But, okay, well, never mind.
Anton LaVey, to be honest, Anton LaVey more than anything was just like a well-dressed atheist.
Yeah.
Like,
interesting.
Yeah, contrarian to the max, but he doesn't do a ton of actual rituals. A lot of it is very performative, but he only very lightly scratches the surface of ritual magic. He wasn't super interested in the amount of homework that it takes to get into ritual magic. This is a little more Crowleyan, but even Aleister Crowley pulls it from the secret schools and the studies of Helena Blavatsky, and it's kind of this like early 1900s to the 1930s like spiritualism movement that really digs into kind of this study of ritual and intention as a means of controlling the world around you. It's basically this feeling of, I can't control what's happening in my world, and this is my attempt to harness that. And people do it in different ways. And Blavatsky also had a lot of weird theories about like hollow moon theory. That's where the reptilians live. Aryans are the master race. They come from Atlantis. Like there's a lot of all of that comes from that era. And I think when people hear Satanist or blood ritual, they think Anton LaVey and don't realize he was just not really doing it. It's not even theistic Satanism at that point.
There was some really great sexy posed photography.
Yeah.
Those rituals.
Yeah. And to be honest, that and a lot of that comes from Kenneth Anger's movies. So like the Church of Satan in San Francisco, which wasn't even a thing until 1966, they do a lot of like promo Hollywood stuff to piss people off. That's more of their goal, is counterculture, subverting the status quo, not really actually doing any air quotes, satanic shit, as much as they are like posing for photos with topless women on an upside down cross.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, but that's kind of, it's a symptom of the satanic panic where people were outraged and fearful at the time because it was a very stressful time, much like now, you know, like people are scared of everything now. It's just that we have QAnon and they had, you know, the devil and Dungeons and Dragons. And so if we
what a simpler time.
What a simpler time,
right?
You know, and at the time they kind of everyone kind of looked around and they were like, the only way I can explain the stress and the terror I feel about everyday life is that it must be the devil.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we get stuff now, where people are like, the only way I can explain how bad it is with multiple wars, genocides happening, a worldwide pandemic, you know, corruption in the government. The only way that makes sense to me that I can feel comfortable with is lizard people and the devil. Because sometimes that's easier than being like, hey, maybe we got here by voting, you know, 10 years ago, and it's going to be a hard job to kind of clean things up. So it's what's easier to believe, essentially.
I don't know how it's easier to believe. Like, that's one thing I cannot relate to or get behind or fully understand. Like, I can, like, sort of empathize to an extent with some, you know, killers or cult leaders, or just like not so much empathize, but like understand their mentality a little bit. But like lizard people is something that like I just really don't.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know.
I just don't even see how you could believe something so wholeheartedly. You know, it's not like there's something going on in your brain that would make, you know, some sort of connection or cause you to think like this or hallucinate or be more angry. It's like, I really don't fucking get.
I mean, that can also be a factor. Like, you know, and I will say cults where they're like, hey, just come out to this commune and we should get back to the land. A lot easier to buy into than reptilians.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, exactly. The basis
well, and if you've got a like super charismatic leader, and they're like, hey, I'm in the same boat as you, like I'm afraid of things, we can just go and like have this place, we can make our own, and then they're gonna say, oh, but you know, there's gonna be an earthquake in the next 2 months and people are gonna die.
Yep.
And then somewhere in the world it happens, and then they're like, oh wait, maybe this person is like tapped into something, and then it slowly like they trust them. And then they start with the reptilians.
Or you can just like throw some acid onto some cheeseburgers like Manson would do.
And he was making his in a bathtub too, so it was like the real wild stuff. But there's also this idea, and we talk about it a lot on our show, but the sunk cost fallacy, where at a certain point, maybe you did join when it was just a commune, or maybe you got into blood over intent where you were just like, hey, this makes me feel better to feel like I'm taking a step toward doing something by declaring my intention for something. But then you get so far into it, you either have the choice of leaving and admitting that everything you knew and thought was wrong, or you could stick it out. And that's the choice that people have. And it's why it's so difficult to get out of cults, but it's also why I feel like anyone could join one, because at the base of joining a cult is just needing something. And needing something in your life that the cult meets. They usually meet a tangible need. Like Jim Jones used to pay people's electric bills. Things like that, where once you have something that has made your life easier or more palatable, it's very, very difficult to actively return to a time when it wasn't in your life and admit that it was wrong.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yep. Sorry, I feel like I talked through the whole 20 minutes
great.
of the show.
Yeah, I love it. That's why we are excited to have an expert. So you're blowing my mind over here. So to dive into what blood over intent is. So for anybody that has no idea what we're talking about, the basic thing, and this is what we've said, this is very similar to a lot of things that have been happening for a very, very long time. It's not a super new concept. There's one thing that makes it a little different, but the basic thing with blood over intent is that people write down an intention. A lot of people write a similar thing, which says that they intend to bring forth heaven on earth and release people from bondage. So this is a common phrase that people write down. They also write down many other things that they specifically want, things that are specific to them. But that is kind of more the general thing that people are writing down. And then they prick their finger. Usually it just looks like a pinprick, very small. And they smear their blood onto the paper that is written. But then the most important thing, and this is what sets it apart, is that they film it and upload it to YouTube. So that's what makes it the new version of...
Yeah, because that's like the witness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The witnessing.
So instead of the witnesses being in person, the intention is that the witnesses are people on YouTube. Now, I will say a lot of these videos have like no views. So
Yeah.
I would say they're not really getting those witnesses. But, you know, whatever, it's out there. And so
Do you think they check back every day and they're like, shit, still no witness?
They're going to be all excited this week because they're like, oh man, we got like 4 or 5 views, and it was just us.
And it was us watching all these weird videos.
I watched one.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the thing is that a lot of these people upload, you know, a video every day, or like multiple. I mean, they have hundreds of like these videos on their channels where they're just doing the same thing over and over again. So I guess, like, you know, if you get 1 view on every video and you post 100 videos, then you got 100 views, right? So now maybe it's the same person watching it every time, but I don't know. But that is the thought process behind like adding YouTube to the equation. So it's just supposed to be their witness, and that's supposed to be the way that they get into the 144,000. And so this is the other thing with this cult, is that 144,000, which is a significant number. It has its own Wikipedia page, by the way, just the number 144,000.
A lot of cults use it.
Yeah, so a lot of cults and religions use it. So for example, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, believe that only 144,000 people will get into heaven. So, I mean, basically, if you're alive now, you're screwed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm fucked. Like,
heaven is full.
I don't know why they're trying to get more people to join at that point, because I'm like, aren't you then jockeying for position with them? But it comes from the Book of Revelation, is where the number comes from.
Okay.
Well, and I could be wrong, but isn't the Jehovah's Witness part of that is your monetary donations? Like the more money you donate, so you can like get above somebody.
Oh,
you can
kick someone out.
You can buy your way into heaven just like a kid on a rowing team for college. Yes.
So basically the concept between that being part of the blood over intent is that if you post your video and you get it out there, and you have witnesses, then your name is written into the Book of Life. And so there needs to be 144,000 names in the Book of Life. And the blood over intent process is proof of life to people. If you don't perform the actions, so, you know, any of us, because I'm assuming none of us here have done this, but...
Don't assume, Liz. No.
Kaylee's like, I just posted my 300th video today.
I just picture one of us being like, well, my blood glucose is 120, but I didn't post it, so I guess it doesn't count. My intention was to eat more cupcakes.
But if you don't follow through, you will remain one of the walking dead, and you will live a meaningless existence full of suffering. And the leader of this cult, which we're going to talk about more, basically one of his quotes is "blood up or shut up."
I love that though. Like, I make a shirt. Yes. I need stickers. I need a shirt. I need a pin. That's why sometimes cult leaders, man, they really have a way with words. Like, the catchphrases, amazing.
Blood up or shut up.
Blood up or shut up is so great.
Like, I kept seeing the blood up or shut up, blood thick, and blood family. And all I kept thinking about was Youngblood from the Watcher house.
Oh, God.
And I was like, wait, when was this created? Like 2017? Does this line up with like those letters? Like it's connected. And now I'm a conspiracy theorist. Thank you, guys.
I just want to know what like blood gang members think of this, where they're just like, what are they doing? Like, we didn't say they could do it. Yeah. Like, what? We need to start a YouTube. I don't know. Do we cut ourselves? No. Like, what? We cut other people. What are we doing?
And yeah, so blood magic and blood ritual obviously has been around forever. And the reason that blood is such a huge part of it is because people see blood as being a potent substance. It contains our DNA. It transports oxygen like around our bodies. And it's also seen as having magical properties for making a person's thoughts come to exist in their lives. So by writing down the statement and then smearing the blood on it, the power of the blood helps to make the idea real. And the more blood that's spilled, the more power is received, is what is believed in some blood magic. Obviously, for this particular cult, I don't think that's a huge part of it, like, isn't the amount of blood. Because, I mean, it's weird because it varies so much from video to video. Because I've seen some videos where people put, like, 3 dots on their paper of blood, and they're like, cool, it's good. And then I've seen another one where, like, the whole, like, ruled paper is, like, covered in blood.
Jeez.
So
is it because they fainted on that paper after losing that much blood?
I don't know. I don't really, I couldn't find anything about, like, oh, you know, you need to have this amount of blood on your, you know, intention in order for this to happen. You know, there's no really, like, rules as far as, like, how to put or how much blood or how to put the blood onto this. I also, like, while I was doing research, I was watching a video, and there was somebody that had their kid, like, their kid, like, scraped their elbow or something.
Yeah, the little girl with the Pokemon shirt on.
Yeah, and, like, she, like, her dad or somebody in the car, like, had her write down her intention, and then she was putting, like, her little elbow, like, scab on it, and I was like, this is messed up.
It's super disturbing.
What the fuck?
There was another video with a guy, and, like, his, like, 2 or 3 year old is in the background, and they're talking and about, like, using their something currency, like spiritual currency. And yeah, so that part was scary, but the whole, like, blood magic, blood oath thing is, like, creepy to me, just because I feel like people are messing with stuff that they don't know anything about.
Yes.
And there's a trade-off with these things. Like, you're making an agreement with your blood with something that maybe they think it's a joke, maybe they're serious about it, but, like, in the 1 in a million chance that something is serious, like, are you willing to pay the price of whatever you're agreeing to?
Yep. Right. And you don't know who you're making that agreement with, and that's the tricky thing with intention. Unless you're extremely specific, they can interpret that intention however. I do think it's interesting that they focused on blood, because Crowleyan theories often involve bodily fluids, but usually semen, urine, and feces as well. Blood is rarely used. So, but also semen gets used more often because you typically would be engaging in ritualistic sex with other members of your coven ahead of time, and that's why it's considered more potent, because you've essentially committed an act in service of your intention. But that's kind of where the mentality comes from, and it's a pretty old mentality. I have a friend who was raised Norse pagan, and as a kid, when she would get hurt, her dad would have her put the blood on their statue of Odin in the house. So, like, this is an ancient idea, this idea that, like, blood is important because it gives us life. But you're absolutely correct. When you're offering blood to people and things, you don't know who you're, like, actually contacting, and you don't know what the stakes are. It's tricky.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is that what people are asking for is also, like, so different from video to video. So, like, some of them are just wanting, like, self-acceptance. Some of them want to change, like, the whole landscape of what the world is. Some of them want, like, a freaking Nintendo Switch, and they're just like, hey, help me get this. You know, I mean, it's like, it's so different, you know, and so it's really hard to, I mean, watch these videos where people are trivializing it. Like, I mean, I think they seem sincere. I don't know. I mean, some of them do, but they're using it for something so little. And then you have people that are like, we want to bring forth, like, heaven on earth and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, wow, this ranges a lot. And you're just kind of toying with this same blood magic no matter what you're asking for, which is
some dude's like, I really just want a Nintendo Switch, man.
I mean, that's like the way people would pray as kids and be like,
exactly.
God, please give me a pony. I can't believe God didn't give me a pony. God's not real. And it's like, no, that's just not how prayer works.
It depends on your ambition.
Yeah.
Well, and
You
I
didn't
should
pray
have
hard enough.
written
You
down the
didn't pray
YouTuber's
hard
name, but they were equating the use of blood magic and intention to the Crusades and like Christians killing people for God, and that was their blood sacrifice to win like the countries they invaded.
Oh no, that's
and that
not
was
great.
all like
Woof.
That's pretty bad.
That was a really weird 15 minutes of my life listening to this video.
Yeah, well, and I also think it's weird that they think the Crusades won or accomplished anything. Like, I think this person really needs to go back and read some history. And basically, a lot of people got killed for not a lot of good reasons.
I need a lot of therapy after researching for this topic, you guys.
Have you tried smearing blood on a prescription for Xanax or something? And just
Hey, I mean, it's probably going to be more effective.
there you go.
So now let's talk a little bit about some of the players in this cult or in Blood Over Intent. So first, a name that popped up a lot that I really couldn't find a ton of information on was a woman named Mary Barnes. And some people consider her like a goddess or like just a really high ranking member of the cult. My guess is that it's just because she's been around a really long time and she's very active. Like, so she has a YouTube channel called Mary Barnes Makovich. She's very active on her YouTube channel, so she uploads multiple times a day, sometimes just daily, you know, whatever that is. She's constantly uploading videos for Blood Over Intent. And like a lot of the videos, I can't even understand half of what's happening during most of them. Like, it's very weird. She also does a lot of art, and she posts like images of her artwork and just goes through like, here's a painting, and, you know, shows a painting off. But anyways, Mary is I think honestly the biggest thing with her is just that she's been around and done it so much, and so people know who she is. She's like the one view on everybody's videos. She's out there watching everybody's whatever.
Oh God, can you imagine that life where you just spend all day watching people ask for N64s and spreading blood on paper? But also, if I was going to be worshipped, I'd pick a better name.
Yeah, Mary Barnes.
You know, like
Could be generic.
Call me Supreme Overlady or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
so
they don't have masks on or disguises at all, right? Like, you can see what they look like. Like, they're out. It's very transparent. There's no like attempt to mask their identity at all. Correct?
No.
Right.
No. It's like they want people to know.
Yeah, who they are.
All two views.
In the back of my head, I'm always just thinking, like, how the hell do y'all make money? Like, how are y'all gonna get a job? Someone, like, finds stuff on the internet, like, making blood oaths? It's like, yeah, no thanks. Not gonna hire this person. I don't know, but...
Yeah. Well, speaking of cool names, we need to talk about Quasi-Luminous.
Yes!
There you go.
So, Quasi-Luminous is the so-called leader of the cult, I would say originally. I think he has lost his place as the leader in this cult. But his name is Mark Braun. He believes he is Satan himself. I feel like this is definitely someone that grew up during Satanic Panic and was like, that's cool, I want to be Satan. So, he is well known with the Coral Springs Police Department. And
I bet he is.
So, this is obviously somebody that's got a lot of issues. He's been charged with second-degree theft, carrying an electric weapon. What is an electric weapon?
Probably a taser or a cattle prod or one of those knives you use at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
He's just like carrying around an extension cord.
He's like, hold on, I gotta plug this in real quick.
I can only stab you within 40 feet of my house.
Well, no, there's like a gnarly kill scene though with a couple of those, like in the movie You're Next.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That blender one was brutal.
The Evil Dead movie where she...
Yeah, and there's a movie, like an older movie called, it's a trauma movie, I think, called Mother's Day. Like Joe Bob just showed it like a few weeks ago. And they use one of those in there too. But I think it unplugs from the wall at one point. So, but yeah, it's, so anyways, he also had drug possession charges.
Wow, shocking.
And yeah, I would say that's the most obvious thing. And then most, like the thing that bums me out the most is that he has also had multiple domestic violence charges against his ex-wife, and violated his probation. So,
great guy.
Mark is basically pretty well known for being mentally unstable. There's a very specific incident that people talk about where he called 911 and said, like, he wouldn't really talk to 911. He was just like, send an ambulance. And like, he hung up the phone. So they did send an ambulance, because obviously that's what they have to do.
Right.
And when they arrived, he was just completely hysterical. He was running around the like parking lot and saying that his neighbor beat him up, even though he had no obvious signs of injury. But like, he insisted that his nose and jaw and ribs and spleen was like ruptured too. I mean, like, he was just like, I have all these things that are wrong with me. So then finally they had to, I mean, they basically thought he was on drugs. I'm sure he was probably on drugs.
Yeah, probably.
He was put into handcuffs and put on a stretcher, and they took him in. They obviously had a lot of trouble treating him. It says that he underwent surgery on his chest.
That's what I couldn't figure out. I was
is
reading
the weird
it in
part.
the notes.
I know.
Yeah, like, why did they do
there's
surgery?
no proof of what
Happened.
like, why.
My
No, I
other
don't-
thinking was that maybe he was in a car accident or something under the influence, or during, let's say, an episode of extreme mental distress, and could not articulate that, but there were injuries. Maybe not the injuries he was describing, but like, let's say that, you know, he has broken ribs or something like that, but he's not even really easily articulating that to the people trying to help him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure the government experimented on him and inserted a tracker in his abdomen.
The PCP was a trap.
Andrea coming in hot with the conspiracies.
So he also then, like, he believes in tons of conspiracy theories. That's the thing with a lot of these people, is that they believe in a lot of conspiracy theories, specifically like we're going to talk about this more, but the flat earth thing. They are on board with the idea of the fact that there's a flat earth, and they also believe in reptile people ruling the world. So but he uploaded videos on YouTube. He's deleted a lot of it now. He uploaded a video at one point called How to Kill Yourself, and he was like setting up a noose and putting on a scuba diver's weight belt to say that like this would help the process. And then he has like a breakdown, and he starts talking about how his wife and kid left the country because the police are harassing them. So he starts thinking that like the police are stalking and threatening him. And so that he becomes really wrapped up in this conspiracy that people are out to get him. And so he obviously, like, and also at the time of the video, he had already been separated from his wife and kid a year earlier. And so he was very distressed. And so he was taken, thankfully, to a mental hospital after this video.
Yeah,
and
that
so
sounds about right.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot about him after this point online. And it sounds like he kind of got replaced somewhat. Like he definitely is not the same like leadership position in this cult. So I'm hoping that means that maybe he's getting some help and
hopefully
better.
Hopefully. I will say with
yeah.
conspiracy theories, if you believe one, it's way more likely that you'll believe like all of them. More of them, I should say. So like if you already believe QAnon, flat earth isn't a huge stretch. Reptilians are even less of a stretch once you get to flat earth. But at that point, you have somebody who is essentially divorced from reality. And at that point, they most likely should seek some professional guidance, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we were talking about before we started recording, is that we're so ripe for cults now here, like in our current, because you think like, oh, cults, those are from the 70s, whatever. People don't do that. People aren't joining cults. But like, because we have so many people that are buying into conspiracy theory, like you have so many people that are ready to join a cult. I mean, like, it's very scary, I would say. I mean, you think about the freaking pandemic video, the plandemic thing that people.
Oh my god, yeah, or the America's
like,
Frontline Doctor video. We did an episode on that one too. Yeah, oof.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know people that posted the plandemic video.
Me too. Yeah,
and it's like, what? I don't understand where this is coming from. I don't know. It's a wild time to be alive. QAnon and everything like that is very terrifying. And people are ready to just fight for that. They're ready to fight for their beliefs in that stuff. And I am not ready for the next few years to see that go down.
No, I was shocked. Like on the actual intent videos where they write the paper and do the blood, there weren't very many views. But a couple of the people that I pulled up that were either in blood over intent or they were like making videos against it. But some of those were equally as bizarre. Some of these people have like 50 to 100,000 subscribers, not just views, but like actual subscribers on YouTube. So the amount of people that are watching some of these, like the more, I don't want to say popular, but those ones, it was a lot. And then you've got the people with the 1 views, but they're definitely getting attention.
Yeah. So that leads us to our final like big player in this, which is Devin Maggi, or Madgi. I'm not sure. There's multiple ways to pronounce it on videos, but he was the second in command person for Quasi-Luminous' channel, and so now he's kind of taken over. And he has his own channel called Flat Earth Paradise. So he has videos about, of course, blood over intent, and then he has lots of new agey type stuff. And he has tens of thousands of subs on his channel. And he's one of blood over intent's biggest movement voices now. He at one point tried to lead a project called SEAL, which is SEAL, like it's abbreviated, or what is that called? Why can't it? An acronym? No. What is it? I'm an idiot.
I think that's right.
Yeah, acronym.
Yeah. Acronym.
Acronym. Okay, sorry. It was, anyways, SEAL, it's aimed to travel to the North Pole to prove that there was a massive hole that leads to the Garden of Eden in the North Pole.
So I love that one because the article I read said that they actually funded it and then he just didn't do it.
That happens a lot with Flat Earth, by the way. I can't tell you how many people have been like, fund my trip to go see the ice wall, and they're just like, yeah, here's $4,000, and then it, never goes anywhere. But it really surprises me that they're thinking that, I mean, I guess if you believe that the North Pole is in the center, and then there's a hole, I guess, sure. It's all wrong. We have pictures from space. I can't, but sure.
But if the Earth is flat, where is the North Pole?
The center. It's like a plate.
In the center, yeah.
Yeah, and essentially there is no South Pole, is what they believe, and that what we think of as the South Pole is actually the ice wall surrounding the flat disk that is Earth.
Like Game of Thrones?
Yes, like Game of Thrones. Except on the other side of the wall is space.
Just space.
Yeah, just space.
Just space.
Wait, can you imagine, like, I just don't get, you live in the year 2021, and the thing that you're gonna, like, really go for is the Earth is flat.
Earth is flat.
Right.
I know. Yeah, and I've never understood. Now, when we did our episode on it, there has been a persistent Flat Earth Society for almost 50 plus years at this point. So like it's not new, it's just more popular, because like previously it was just a handful of people and now it's a ton of people trying to do experiments to prove it, and they fail a lot of the time, because spoiler, it's not round, or it is round, it's not flat.
Wait a minute.
Flat earther?
No. It's one of those episodes where we did a ton of research on it, and then we were just so frustrated that information had to live in our heads for the rest of our lives.
I believe that for sure.
Well, and I think I saw an image that it was like the Flat Earth Society, and they were like, they have members all around the world. And I'm like, yeah, but you just said it.
Oh man, yes, yeah.
Shouldn't it be all across the world?
Sometimes they change it to across the world.
Okay.
Although there's a lot of debate within the flat Earth community. Like some people believe that there's a dome, which you could then technically justify the use of around because a dome would be round. And they base that on like science around the antediluvian world before a mass flood event that caused a lot of our geographical changes on Earth. It's a long story. It's frustrating, and at the end you'll just be like, but it's round. So you know.
But
you're wrong
flat.
though.
Yeah.
It's still wrong. Yeah.
I'm still sad that Devin got the money and he didn't go.
I know.
At
What the
least
heck,
try.
So he also was trying to start an in real life cult that followed Blood Over Intent because he is a reincarnation of Hermes or Thoth, the messenger of the gods.
That's a fun one. We don't hear that
Yeah.
one too often. We keep a running list of who has pretended to be Jesus and Satan because it's often multiple people at the same time, which is always hilarious. But Hermes is an outlier. There's only one or two other people that we've found that have claimed to be Hermes, and one of them is the leader of Unarius, who honestly is just a fabulous woman with wonderful dresses and wigs and totally harmless. But she's one of the only other people that's been like, yeah, I'm Hermes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love Hermes in that Hercules movie. He's cool
Me
as
too.
hell,
Yeah.
so.
Got those wing shoes.
Yeah, love him. And so he can manipulate matter at will. And so he made predictions, of course, about a cataclysmic event. And
Classic.
he still likes to appear as some sort of god. But he has left some of the Blood Over Intent thing. So I don't think he's uploading as much anymore. So, I mean, at this point, like where we're at now, Blood Over Intent, there's still people uploading daily. I checked today, there's at least like 7 different videos that were uploaded today. So it is definitely still happening out there, but there doesn't seem to be any like super clear leader of the cult necessarily. It's more just a lot of people are, you know, believing that this is going to do something. It's going to change parts of their lives. It's going to help them, you know, move forward in their, you know, like with most cults, they're scared about something. And so they are going towards something that feels safe to them and that feels like they can control something in their life. And of course, it is a huge offshoot of YouTube's Flat Earth community. And so, you know, obviously, like Paige was saying, once you believe in one thing, it's a lot easier to believe in another and another. So if you believe in Flat Earth, it's not that far of a stretch to be like, hey, if I spread my blood over this piece of paper, it's going to make a difference. Like, so,
I mean, with that Nintendo Switch.
I mean, your paper is now bloody, and that is different. So,
that is
like,
true. That's true.
in a way, it made a difference at least.
But yeah, with a lot of things, they're just trying to put the blame on something else. So like they can be like, oh, you know what? My life isn't getting better, but that's not because of me. It means that I need to do more of this and it will be better. And so putting their faith into blood magic is about creating a system that they can make their life better on. So I don't know. It's a very, very interesting community. I don't know. I'll be curious to see if it continues a lot. Like I'll keep kind of checking online to see how often people are uploading. I feel like I remember seeing something about this a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago in the last year, but like a few months ago, it popped up on my like suggested for YouTube, like somebody talking about it, and like that big video that who is that, Andrea, that did that video, the original one? Do you remember?
I think, was it Blame It on Jorge?
Yes,
Yep.
It was. Okay. So yeah, so that main video is what came up to me originally as a suggested video. And so that's kind of what originally got me into this and like what I saw about it. But I feel like that's from a while ago at this point, and there really isn't a whole lot of new information about it. Like nothing big has really happened since that.
Yeah, there was a good Reddit thread that somebody had started that is still going, where it's like people like us that are just like, what are they doing over there? And they'll go find like videos and upload things. And I think that, as always, is super intriguing with the lack of information and just the random bits of other stuff that they've taken and thrown in. Because the other thing that the last thing with what they do that like super interests me is the backwards speech.
Oh yes, we didn't talk about reverse speech.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, I skipped over that.
In some of the videos, the people do the reverse speech thing, and so I think we're gonna have to take this episode and listen to it backwards, obviously.
Yes,
because there, it gives your I might be saying this wrong, like what you truly intended to say.
Yeah, it's the true intention is when you listen to it backwards, you can hear the true intention. Which I mean, the whole backwards speech thing is so like. That's been around forever, I feel like, as well. Yeah. I mean, and it's such a stupid thing. I mean, well, to me it is, because it's like you can make up anything. Like, you can make yourself hear things.
Yes.
If someone says it. I mean, I remember when I was an RA, I had to sit in this like little office in our dorm building to like check people in at night. Like, I had like a shift every week. And I remember one night I was really bored and I was on the computer and like I was just looking up stuff and I got deep into like the Beatles conspiracy stuff.
Turn me on, dead man. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I remember freaking myself out listening to that over and over again. And I was like, this is so creepy. Like, I mean, and it's not like I was like, oh, I believe it now. Paul's not real. But like, it still is. I mean, you can convince yourself of a lot of things by just like someone putting that into your head and then you being like, I do hear that.
Well, I mean, to be honest, John Lennon was notorious for putting backwards messages into his songs, like to mess with people. And so there is this little degree of reality where he is actually putting that there, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just him fucking around. Prince used to do it also. And belief in that kind of level of conspiracy can be very dangerous. That's how Judas Priest gets sued for the deaths of, death and injury and then eventual death of two boys. But that's satanic panic in the 80s and 70s and 80s as well. This idea that like hearing a backwards message would like turn you evil. And it's like your brain can't even really compartmentalize and understand those messages, listening to them forward. You'd have to go looking for them, and even then sometimes they aren't there. So like, yeah, it's a whole bunch of weird. Save it for Twin Peaks is what I would say.
That gum you like is
going to come back in style.
So one thing that I did notice on the Reddit is that people were like, is this an ARG? Which, as soon as I read that, I was like, what the heck's an ARG? Which I am definitely out of the loop, and I clearly didn't know something that's been around forever. But it's an alternate reality game, and basically people, were speculating, okay, is this like all made up? And like people are just posting these as part of this like massive ARG. But the thing is that there's no way, because there's so many people, like, I mean, the scope of this would be so huge to get that many people committed to this ARG concept. But I did kind of go down the rabbit hole of like looking up ARGs, and there's some like really cool stuff out there if you've never seen it. I was watching one called Ash Vlogs, and it's like this girl, and it was like a college project basically. And I mean, she has like a vlog channel, and you basically are watching her videos, and then slowly weird stuff starts happening in her videos. And also, in each video, there's a description to another secret unlisted video that you go to. And those videos are like really creepy. Like they'll just be like a weird room that has like, that's all trashed and has nothing in it. Or like, here's a video of a person with like a sack over their head. Or like, so basically throughout the thing, Ash starts seeing this creepy guy that's sitting in a car outside of her apartment. She gets kidnapped. And then you try to kind of figure out stuff, but they use like YouTube videos, Snapchat, Instagram. You could also find things in real life, so you could actually go to locations that they mention in the videos and like find clues.
That's
but
actually
it's like
interesting. Yeah,
it was like huge, like, and so I don't know. It was a very it was a cool rabbit hole to go down, because I was like, oh hey, I didn't know about this, and I will definitely be watching some more and seeking them out. There's one called like My Dad's Tapes. And that one is like about a guy who finds like his dad dies, and like once he's going through his stuff, he finds like all these videotapes, and they're like kind of reminding me of the Poughkeepsie tapes, because he's basically like, oh, my dad is like a serial killer or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds a lot like Poughkeepsie tapes.
That's a super fun way for people to use technology to tell stories, and it's so interactive. And it crossed my mind when I first heard about this that it was one, but then when I started reading about Quasi-Luminous, I was like, I don't know that he's like smart enough to put this whole thing together.
No.
Right. Or maybe it started as one, and then these are people taking it far too serious.
Next level.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Well, and I think half of it is just, some 16-year-old sees this video and it's like, just like on TikTok, and they're like, oh, it's a viral challenge, so I'm going to do this.
No. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the viral blood magic challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Tide Pods were a thing. Now it's blood magic. These crazy kids.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I have on Blood Over Intent. Does anybody have any last thoughts? I mean, it's terrifying a little bit. Right now, it's pretty harmless, I guess. Nobody's like doing anything to harm other people.
I don't know. Like,
there was a case in Canada where a kid got stabbed. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, take back the harmless.
The one I read, it like wasn't directly related.
Yeah,
but
yeah. They claimed it was, but also I think he just wanted to stab that kid.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I feel like this
But then he somehow tied it into the Blood Over Intent thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah, I guess he had recently uploaded a video. And there was, couldn't find much because it was kids. I think, anytime there's less information out. But it's kind of scary. I think it does in a way promote self-harm.
That is true.
And I laughed a lot through this episode, but you don't know, like, people are so susceptible to everything right now.
Yeah.
And I just know, like, the amount of, like, quote unquote normal people in my life that like think like they're getting microchipped with the virus or the vaccine, and like
I take back what I said.
Yeah, like how easily people are wrapped into things. And then so if another character like the Devin or Quasi-Luminous comes out, to take that role as leader and then starts putting more malicious thoughts in people's heads, there's already a wide open audience just waiting to be told what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's terrifying, I guess. I mean, because I watch it and I'm like, oh, these people are just being weirdos on the internet, but I mean, it could definitely get more complicated than that. So
well, it's like that Slender Man case with those.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Like, and people, especially younger kids who may feel like they're outsiders and they just want to like belong, or if there's some way that they can, have some sort of control over their life or make it better. I could very easily see something like that being an appeal. It kind of reminds me too of a couple of things with like the new movie The Djinn. Y'all saw that, right?
Yeah.
Just sort of like wishing that things could be different, but then not really knowing what, kind of like y'all were saying, not really knowing what you're opening up or inviting in. And then also I feel like this could, if you go out of the realm of just, it being realistic, I think this could be a cool Blumhouse movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of makes me think of like Unfriended or one of those types of films where you have these teens and they gather on the internet and then something goes wrong. I feel like this could actually be an interesting concept for a film, but
I would love a sci-fi twist on that, and like it works, and then whatever weird terraforming happens, bringing their how do you? So if they want 144,000 people to do this to get in the book, so you're gonna take all 144,000 people's vision of heaven, and it's gonna become Earth.
Yeah,
just like mashed up.
All together, as if that's not going to provide any problems, as if it's not going to be an issue. If one person wants to kill everyone and the other person wants everybody to live, I mean, try deciding where to eat with 4 people and tell me how easy it would be to make an entire Earth with all of the desires of 144,000 people.
Oh God.
Right?
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, I agree, Marissa. I think this would be dope as one of those Unfriended type movies, because that movie is very underrated in my opinion.
I agree.
I freaking love that movie, and I thought it was so fun when it came out, and I didn't hate the Dark Web one. I mean, I think it's weaker of the two, but I enjoyed it, and I liked what's the other one that same technology made? Oh. It's with Searching.
Oh, Searching. Host is really good. I never.
Oh yeah,
Host. It's called Searching.
But yeah, just like internet horror, I guess
it's honestly, internet horror is like one of the things that freaks me out the most. I don't know if I've talked about that on this podcast before, but like specifically when I was a kid, there was an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark with the stupid computer virus, and it was like this little person that they made totally silver with like his brain sticking out. And this kid gets like attacked by the computer virus, and ever since then I've been so scared of like technology horror. I just think it's like so freaky to me. Like there's a movie called Radder, which is not a good movie, but like this girl, like all of her technology gets hacked, and so like this guy's like stalking her and watching her on all of her technology. Oh, and just stuff like that is so scary to me because I feel like it's so real.
Have you seen Brain Scan?
No.
Oh my god, it's one of my favorites. You have to see it soon. Everyone watch Brain Scan.
Did that come out in the like mid to late 90s?
I think it was actually early 90s.
Was it early? Okay, because it sounds very familiar.
Oh my god.
Jonathan Brandis, maybe?
Great. If you want internet horror, watch Brain Scan. It's fantastic. I'm not going to say anything about it. I want you to go in blind.
Okay.
I love it.
Well, ladies, let's go ahead and talk about what has put a spell on us this week. So, is there anybody that wants to go first?
I will. I recently binged I guess there was only 5 episodes at the time when I started watching it. I believe there's only 7. Mayor of Easttown.
It's so good.
Ladies heard of that?
No.
It is so good. I just randomly started watching it it's on HBO Max. Kate Winslet is the star, and she's basically like a detective in a small Pennsylvania town, and there's some missing girls and a brutal murder of like a young teen girl, and she's trying to solve it. But it also, her life's problems come into play in a lot of it, but it is so good. I cannot recommend it enough.
I'm dying for the next episode because I've got theories, but I won't say anything. Yeah, because the
finale is...
This is the HBO Max one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have heard of it. It does look good.
It's great. And Andrea, am I wrong? Isn't the series finale Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's only 7 episodes.
I'm dying. So. I love
a 7-episode series.
Me too. And every episode there's so much that happens, and it's so good. And Evan Peterson is in it.
Jean Smart, Designing Women. I love her.
Yeah. Evan Peters, not Evan Peterson. I love Evan Peters.
All of our American Horror Story fans were just like, "Are you kidding me?
How dare you?
Are you?" I just got a little too excited.
I think we've already ostracized all of them, along with like the Star Wars fans. They're not listening anymore.
What'd you guys do to the Star Wars fans?
Andrea, what did we do?
I know we were like making fun of their fandom because they don't like anything.
I mean,
but I don't remember what led up to it.
Yeah. Was it any Star Wars news ever? Because anytime, and I say this as someone who loves Star Wars, has since I was a child, has been guilty of not liking stuff that they put out. But I feel like anytime anything Star Wars happens ever, you have a handful of people that are like, "Yay, amazing," and then like a whole wave of people being like, "This sucks because it's not the original vision," and you're just like,
"You ruined
down.
my childhood."
Yes. See, we're just ostracizing them even more. It's okay.
Okay, so speaking of childhood, you guys, specifically Liz and Kaylee, reminded me that I have not watched enough like Disney original content.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I was like a little too old that wasn't like when the movies and stuff were coming out. So I watched 1999's Don't Look Under the Bed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been scary.
Yeah.
Like if I was a kid.
As a kid.
The practical effects were really good. It was really fun. Like the acting is what it was. But I had a blast.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. So I'm gonna keep digging through that Disney Plus library and watching more of these.
Man, I think Liz and I both love So Weird.
Oh
Yes.
my God, so weird.
Is so good.
Yes.
So good.
I'll put that on my queue.
It's a series, Andrea.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
she's
So
like,
you have to.
yeah.
It's like X-Files for kids.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
Yep.
Is what it is. I mean, it's wonderful. The first 2 seasons are 100% worth watching. The lead actress leaves after season 2, so it's kind of like
it goes strongly downhill after season 2.
Yeah. But still worth a watch.
Yes. Okay. Well, on the teen train. That sounded
terrible.
But
Tim's gonna put that at the end of the episode, make it sound like a creep.
I am currently obsessed with this show on Freeform called Cruel Summer. It's really kind of stupid, but I love it so much. I watched all of Pretty Little Liars when it was originally out, even though I hated the freaking ending and it was terrible. But I love a good teen thriller show, which is what this is. And basically, it's about a girl. So it takes place over 1993, 1994, and 1995. So the timeline switches back and forth in every episode, which does mean it is not a sit and be on your phone TV show, because you definitely have to be kind of paying attention to make sure you know what's happening. But basically, a girl is groomed and kidnapped by her vice principal of the high school. And while she is being held captive, a kind of nerdy girl gets popular and kind of takes her place, and all of her friends become her, she gets all of this kidnapped girl's friends and starts dating the kidnapped girl's boyfriend and all this stuff, and kind of takes over. And then the girl is found and she gets out, and then she tells everyone that the girl that took her place saw her while she was being held captive and didn't do anything about it.
Oh shit.
And so that's the whole twist on you don't know who's telling the truth or who is. And so you're kind of this story is slowly unfolding. Obviously it has a lot to do with all the other people's lives in the shows as well, or in the show. But yeah, I don't know. It's really addictive. I think it's only going to be 10 episodes, which is pretty great for a teen show. Because I mean, I don't know. I could see them, if it does well enough, trying to spread it out into a season 2 or something. But I'm hoping we at least get some closure as to did she really see her or not? But anyways, it's really good. If you want some kind of trash TV, I highly recommend it. So
I'm here for it.
It's cool too because Jessica Biel is a producer on it, and also it was filmed around Texas. So there's been I had a couple of friends who worked on that show, and I watched it. I haven't watched the most recent episode, and I actually like it too. I find the hair and makeup kind of hilarious, the wig. Or just what the fuck. But
I think that they're trying to push the 90s into the current revival of the 90s. And not so much the real 90s.
Right, yeah.
But
that's
it's
very
okay.
true. And you could totally see it. It's a weird, it's a poser version of the 90s, but it's still so cool.
I would say when she's a nerd at the beginning, she looks truly 90s to me. But then the cool people look like poser 90s. But
bunch of posers.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's a fun watch.
For sure.
I'm kind of on the retro and childhood train, Liz, as well. But I've been, I'm starting to read the Fear Street trilogy.
Ooh,
I was gonna mention that.
Yeah, in order to prepare for the Netflix films that are coming out, I think in July, where they're releasing.
Yes.
I am so stoked for that.
It's been so long since I've read any sort of Fear Street, so I just started the first one this week, and they take place in different time periods, kind of like Cruel Summer, actually. where it's like, I don't even remember, it was like 1666, the 80s, and maybe current day. I forget the exact time periods, but the setup looks really awesome, and I'm excited to revisit, these books again and kind of familiarize myself with the storyline. I think there's a combination of books that are going to be referenced because it's not straight adaptations from the source material, sort of like how Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was. But I did read that a lot of it is from the Fear Street saga, the trilogy, these 3 particular books. So I just found those on, online and started reading them. And they're really not that long. They're only about like 120, 150 pages. So started that first one this week, and it's been pretty fun.
Awesome. Okay, Paige, you get to tell us about your thing that's putting a spell on you. We get to hear what you like to watch or binge or whatever.
My biggest thing is the new Edgar Wright trailer dropped yesterday, and I am obsessed. I love the 60s, so like it definitely gets at a very specific stylistic part of me, and also it's Edgar Wright, so I trust pretty much anything he does. So I'm very stoked about that. Also, Psycho Goreman is on Shudder now, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's essentially
so good.
It's so much fun. It's basically like 90s Power Rangers, but with way more gore and a little girl as your protagonist. It's
and hunky boys.
It's so fun. I've been obsessed with that, and that's kind of my main too, is like trying to get back to theaters. I'm excited for Conjuring 3. It's all gonna be great.
Yes. Okay, well, before we wrap up, Paige, you want to tell us where we can find you and find your podcast?
Sure. If you want to find just me specifically, I'm at Paige Wesley on Twitter or at Rampage Wesley on Instagram. If you want to listen to my podcasts, you can find them at Cult Podcast Show on pretty much all social media, at Horror Virgin, and at Romancing the Pod on all social media. So
Awesome. Well, Paige, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And of course, as always, you can find Black Magic Coven at Black Magic Coven on basically any social media. So come join the fun. But this concludes the gathering of the Black Magic Coven.
You're listening to a Downright Creepy original on the Crickets Podcast Network.